Edward Haas III was born in Vienna, Austria, in 1897 into a merchant family. Edward Haas III's family was a wealthy and successful Austrian merchant who was active in the food and consumer goods trade. This background had a great influence on Edward Haas III's thinking and led him to play a major role in the innovation of the food industry. It is now the 1920s and young Edward looks around and sees that everyone is smoking. At that time, World War I had just ended and everyone wanted to recoup their financial losses. So did the tobacco industry and its mafia. Of course, one of the reasons for the increase in cigarette consumption was World War I. Why? Because during World War I, 1914 to 1918, cigarettes were a staple of the soldiers' rations. After the war, many men got into the habit of smoking, which led to an increase in demand for cigarettes in the 1920s. Another reason was that in the early 20th century, cigarettes were mostly consumed by men, but in the 1920s, tobacco companies began targeting women. Slogans like "smoking a symbol of women's freedom" were featured in advertisements, and brands like Lucky Strike advised women to smoke instead of eating sweets and gaining weight. They advertised that cigarettes would help them lose weight. Companies used Hollywood actors, doctors, athletes, and celebrities to advertise cigarettes. Many advertisements claimed that cigarettes were good for the throat or reduced stress. Fierce competition arose between cigarette brands. Famous brands like Camel, Lucky Strike, Chesterfield, and Marlboro competed with each other and used creative methods like using doctors in advertisements to convince people to smoke. Now imagine that young Edward had the idea of swimming against the current. He came up with the idea of mint candies, especially for adults. He sold them in small metal cans and called them PEZ. Inspired by the German word Pfefferminz, meaning peppermint, the mints quickly became popular among adults. Edward was a creative businessman. He realized that many people wanted to quit smoking but had no alternative. He offered cool, flavored candies in small metal cans to those who were used to holding something in their mouths. Early PEZ advertising focused on health, oral hygiene, and an alternative to cigarettes, which was an innovative idea at the time. In the early 1950s, PEZ was sold mainly in Austria and Germany. But Edward Haas III knew that in order to grow, he needed to target larger markets. So in 1952, he decided to introduce PEZ to the United States. There was a problem. In Europe, PEZ was marketed more as an adult product and an alternative to cigarettes, but in the United States, this strategy didn't work. American consumers did not like the chewy candy as much as they did in Europe, and initial sales were challenging. This challenge led PEZ to shift its popularity towards children. For the first time, PEZ was marketed with a cartoon character that quickly became popular, early characters to appear in PEZ dispensers. Heavy checkmark Superman and Batman, DC Comics. Heavy checkmark Donald Duck and other Disney characters. 1970s and 1980s, PEZ's popularity exploded. Star Wars introduces dispensers featuring Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker, and Yoda, which became very popular. Heavy checkmark The Smurfs, famous Belgian characters that became very popular in the 1980s. Heavy checkmark Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Hello Kitty, and Spider-Man. Blue Circle 1990s to today, modern collaborations. Pokemon, Harry Potter, Marvel, Pixar and Disney animated films, from Toy Story to Frozen. Fortnite and Mario, PEZ has merged with the world of video games. The shift in focus from adults to children has made PEZ a popular brand for generations. Not only were cartoon character dispensers appealing to children, they also became valuable collectibles. PEZ remains one of the most popular collectible candies in the world, with new characters added to the collection every year. There are several famous collectors in the world who are interested in collecting PEZ dispensers, and some of them have amazing collections. 1. Steve Glue, PEZ smuggler. Small Blue Diamond. Steve Glue is an American collector who became one of the largest dealers of rare PEZ in the United States in the 1990s. He secretly imported rare PEZ models from Europe into the United States and made huge profits by selling them. His life story was so bizarre and fascinating that the documentary, The PEZ Outlaw, was made about him in 2022. 2. Gary Doss, owner of the PEZ Museum. Small Blue Diamond. Gary Doss was the owner of the PEZ Museum in California, the Burlingame Museum of PEZ Memorabilia, which was one of the most well-known PEZ-related places in the United States. He spent years collecting and displaying all kinds of rare dispensers. 3. Dave and Amelia Limbach. Small Blue Diamond. This American couple is a collector who owns one of the largest private PEZ collections in the world. They appear at various shows and conventions, and their collection includes thousands of rare models. 4. Sean Peterson, author and PEZ collector. Small Blue Diamond. Sean Peterson is the author of the book, PEZ, From Austrian Invention to American Icon, which explores the history and world of PEZ collecting.